In a stunning display of leadership and strategic acumen, Captain Ibrahim Traore, the young firebrand who seized power in a 2022 coup, has orchestrated one of the most dramatic military overhauls in modern African history. Over the past 2 years, from 2023 to 2025, Traore has flooded Burkina Faso's armed forces with cutting-edge weaponry, forged bold international alliances, and unleashed a torrent of tactical innovations that have begun to turn the tide against the relentless jihadist insurgency plaguing the Sahel. What was once a beleaguered army, outgunned and overwhelmed, now stands as a formidable high-tech juggernaut, striking fear into the hearts of terrorists and inspiring awe across the continent. This is the jaw-dropping story of how Traore armed his nation to the teeth and started winning battles that seemed unwinnable. When Traore took office in October 2022, Burkina Faso's military was in shambles. Undermanned, under-equipped, and facing an insurgency that controlled nearly 40% of the country's territory. Jihadist groups affiliated with Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State had turned vast swaths of the north and east into no-go zones, launching ambushes, planting IEDs, and terrorizing civilians with impunity. But Traore, a 37-year-old special forces captain with a no-nonsense demeanor, vowed to change that. "The homeland or death, we shall overcome," he declared, echoing the revolutionary spirit of Burkina Faso's iconic leader Thomas Sankara. The transformation began in earnest in 2023, with a flurry of acquisitions that diversified and modernized the arsenal. Turning away from traditional Western suppliers like France, whom Traore expelled in a bold move that severed colonial-era ties, he pivoted to partners in China, Turkey, Russia, and beyond. By early 2024, the first major shipments arrived from China, including 6 WMA-301 fire support vehicles armed with 105mm guns, 8 CS/SM-1 self-propelled 81mm mortars, a first for any African nation, and a cache of 60mm WW-90 mortars along with RPG-7 ammunition. These weren't just toys. The WMA-301S, manufactured by Norinco, provided mobile firepower capable of blasting through insurgent hideouts in rugged terrain, while the mortars allowed for rapid, precise indirect fire that could decimate enemy gatherings without exposing troops. But Traore didn't stop there. In June 2024, another massive Chinese batch rolled in. Over 40 Norinco VP-11 armored vehicles, 50 CS/VP-14 mine-resistant ambush-protected, MRAP, trucks, and even 17 Caterpillar excavators for engineering support. The VP-11S, with their V-shaped hulls designed to deflect blasts from up to 8 kilograms of TNT, became lifesavers in IED-littered zones, shielding soldiers as they pushed into jihadist strongholds. The VP-14S, seating up to 12 personnel and armored against 7.62mm rounds, enabled swift convoy operations across the Sahel's dusty expanses. Turkey emerged as a key ally too, delivering combat drones and armored fighting vehicles that elevated Burkina Faso's air and ground game. In April 2024, Traore handed over a dozen Bayraktar TB2 drones, unmanned aerial vehicles infamous for their precision strikes in conflicts like Ukraine and Libya. These drones, equipped with laser-guided missiles, allowed the military to scout and eliminate insurgent convoys from the skies, disrupting supply lines and forcing terrorists into hiding. On the ground, Turkish Nurol Ejder Yeltsin 4x4 and Ejder 6x6 vehicles arrived in early 2023, providing agile, heavily armed platforms for rapid raids. Russia's influence added a layer of sophistication. Reports indicate special forces training from Russian operatives, including Wagner Group-linked units, honed Burkina Faso's elite troops in counterinsurgency tactics. Fighter jets and helicopters bolstered the air force, enabling aerial assaults on remote camps. By mid-2025, Traore had integrated Russian SIGINT, signals intelligence, tech, allowing forces to intercept jihadist communications and preempt attacks. The crown jewel came in August 2025, a fresh Chinese consignment featuring the SR-5 Multiple Launch Rocket System, MLRS, Burkina Faso's first long-range artillery capability. With ranges up to 70 kilometers using guided rockets, the SR-5 can saturate enemy positions with devastating barrages or deliver pinpoint strikes, perfect for hitting insurgent assembly points in the vast Sahel. Accompanying it were VN-22B fire support vehicles with 30mm autocannons, PLL-05 120mm self-propelled gun mortars for high-angle fire over obstacles, and SH-1 122mm howitzers for sustained bombardment. These systems, combined with Dongfeng armored vehicles fitted with laser-guided missiles, have turned Burkina Faso's artillery into a force multiplier, capable of supporting infantry advances while keeping soldiers out of harm's way. By October 2025, Traore handed over yet another batch, including heavy combat machinery to enhance operational capacity against armed groups. Earth-moving equipment like tandem compactors and finishers strengthened military engineering, allowing rapid construction of forward bases and roads in contested areas. This logistical boost has been crucial, enabling troops to maintain supply lines in regions where insurgents once dominated. Hardware alone doesn't win wars. Traore knew that. So, he supercharged recruitment, enlisting over 90,000 volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDP, civilian militias trained to support regular forces. These volunteers, armed with locally produced uniforms and basic weaponry, have extended the military's reach into rural villages, providing intelligence and quick response capabilities. In a move that sent shockwaves through the region, Traore created specialized units like the Rapid Intervention Battalions, BASER and BBIR, equipped with the new Chinese gear for mobile warfare. Plans to expand to 28 battalions with 14,000 new soldiers by 2025 have already yielded results. Just recently, over 800 immortal soldiers, elite specialists in frontline assaults, graduated, ready to intensify operations and rack up victories against bandits. Russian-trained special forces have added an edge, with reports of them bolstering presidential security while teaching asymmetric tactics to counter hit-and-run attacks. The Alliance of Sahel States, AES, formed with Mali and Niger, has created a 5,000-troop joint anti-jihadist force, sharing intelligence and conducting cross-border operations. The proof is in the pounding. Since 2023, jihadist attacks have plummeted by 65%, thanks to Traore's upgrades. Drones have neutralized high-value targets, mortars have shelled hidden camps, and MRAPs have survived ambushes that would have decimated older convoys. In one recent operation, Burkinabe forces trapped and obliterated a terrorist cell, showcasing their tenacity and superior firepower. The SR-5's long-range strikes have disrupted insurgent logistics, forcing groups like JNIM, Jamaat Nasr al-Islam wal Muslimin, into defensive postures. Villages once under siege are being reclaimed, with military engineers building roads to connect them. Over 5,000 kilometers paved in record time, using the new equipment to outpace the enemy. Traore's strategy, a blend of aggressive campaigns, community militias, and high-tech precision, has not only saved lives but restored hope. Civilian displacements are down, and in areas like the north, markets are reopening as security improves. Yet, as the fight rages on, with new shipments arriving and alliances deepening, the full extent of this military renaissance is still unfolding. As the dust settles on reclaimed territories, a darker undercurrent emerges in Burkina Faso's epic struggle. Whispers, and increasingly shouts, of foreign meddling designed to keep the nation on its knees. Captain Ibrahim Traore hasn't minced words. He accuses France, the former colonial overlord, of orchestrating a covert campaign of destabilization, funneling support to jihadists and proxies to sow chaos, undermine sovereignty, and choke the economy. This isn't mere paranoia. It's a narrative backed by arrests, intercepted plots, and a pivot away from Paris that has armed Burkina Faso to fight not just insurgents, but an alleged imperial puppeteer pulling strings from afar. Over the past 2 years, Traore's military upgrades haven't just hammered terrorists, they've erected a steel barrier against what he calls a French-sponsored insecurity machine, preserving economic lifelines and preventing total collapse. Here's how this high-stakes geopolitical chess game has played out, with Burkina Faso's new weapons as the queen on the board. Traore's indictment of France dates back to his early days in power, but it crystallized in explosive public statements throughout 2024 and 2025. In July 2024, he declared outright that France was destabilizing Burkina Faso, citing evidence of orchestration in cahoots with neighbors like Benin and Ivory Coast, countries he labeled as launchpads for infiltration and arms smuggling to jihadists. By April 2025, Traore escalated, claiming Ivory Coast served as a center of operations for plots to unleash total chaos, including funding insurgent cells to disrupt mining operations and trade routes vital to Burkina Faso's gold-dependent economy. These accusations aren't isolated. They echo a broader Sahelian resentment against France's historical footprint, from exploiting uranium and gold reserves to propping up compliant regimes while ignoring grassroots grievances that fuel extremism. The smoking gun. In September 2024, Burkinabe forces detained 4 French intelligence agents in Ouagadougou, accusing them of espionage and regime destabilization efforts. These operatives, allegedly embedded under diplomatic cover, were caught mapping military installations and liaising with dissident elements. A move Traore linked directly to Paris's bitterness over his expulsion of French troops in 2023. Negotiations for their release stalled, with Traore using the incident to rally national unity against imperialist plundering. This alleged sponsorship, Traore argues, isn't random terror, it's economic warfare. By amplifying insecurity in gold-rich regions like the North and East, France purportedly aims to scare off investors, halt exports, gold accounts for over 70% of Burkina Faso's revenue, and force the country back into dependency on French aid and military protection. Pre-coup, jihadist attacks shuttered mines, slashed GDP by an estimated 15 to 20% annually, and displaced millions, creating a vicious cycle of poverty that made the populace ripe for recruitment. All while French firms quietly benefited from instability-priced contracts elsewhere in the region. Enter Traore's military metamorphosis, which has directly countered this alleged hybrid warfare. The Bayraktar TB2 drones from Turkey, operational since early 2024, have been game-changers in border surveillance, spotting and neutralizing smuggling caravans suspected of carrying French-supplied arms across from Ivory Coast and Benin. In one audacious operation in late 2024, TB2S identified a convoy laden with explosives near the southern frontier, launching precision strikes that obliterated the threat and captured documents allegedly tracing back to French intermediaries. Evidence Traore paraded as proof of external sponsorship. These drones' thermal imaging and loitering capabilities have sealed porous borders, reducing cross-border incursions by 50% and protecting key economic corridors like the Ouagadougou-Abidjan Highway, which jihadists, and their backers, once targeted to strangle trade. On the ground, the Norinco VP-11 and CS/VP-14 RAPs have armored convoys escorting gold shipments, surviving IED blasts that previously halted exports worth millions. These vehicles, impervious to small arms fire and mines, have enabled rapid response teams to reclaim mining sites in the Bouclé du Mouhoun region, where insurgents, purportedly egged on by French intelligence to disrupt production, had forced closures. By mid-2025, gold output rebounded by 30%, injecting billions into state coffers and funding further military expansions, breaking the economic stranglehold. The SR-5 MLRS systems, with their 70 kilometers reach, have pounded suspected proxy bases in neighboring territories without full invasion, sending a clear message. Burkina Faso won't yield to destabilization. Russian SIGINT gear has intercepted communications revealing coordinated attacks, allowing preemptive strikes that foiled at least 3 major plots in 2025 alone, including one aimed at sabotaging the newly paved roads linking mines to ports. The VDP militias, now 90,000 strong and equipped with basic arms from the Arsenal Surge, have formed a human intelligence network in villages, rooting out infiltrators and spies. Trained by Russian advisors, these locals have disrupted recruitment drives that Traore claims were amplified by French disinformation campaigns portraying his regime as tyrannical, thus fueling unrest to justify intervention. The AES joint force with Mali and Niger has pooled resources for cross-border ops, neutralizing camps that served as alleged French proxy hubs, further isolating jihadists and stabilizing regional economies. The ripple effects on the economy are profound. Pre-Traore, insecurity, allegedly stoked by France to maintain influence over resources, cost Burkina Faso an estimated $2 billion yearly in lost revenue, with attacks on infrastructure like power grids and railways grinding industry to a halt. Now, with PLL-05 mortars and VN-22B vehicles enabling swift clearances of terrorist-held areas, agricultural heartlands in the east are producing again, boosting food security and exports by 25% in 2025. Military engineers, using those Caterpillar excavators, have rebuilt over 5,000 kilometers of roads, reconnecting markets and attracting Chinese investors who outbid French firms for mining concessions. A direct slap to Paris's economic leverage. Terrorist attacks, down 65%, have slashed displacement costs, allowing reallocations to education and health, fostering stability that deters foreign-backed unrest. Traore's immortal special forces, honed on Russian tactics, have conducted surgical raids on high-value targets, including alleged French-linked financiers, ensuring that insecurity doesn't morph into economic sabotage. Yet, as alliances with Beijing and Moscow deepen, and new shipments promise even more firepower, the battle against this multifaceted threat evolves, with Burkina Faso's resilience hanging in the balance.